Let's dive into Summer House. I know that you don't really keep up with Watch What Happens Live, but Lindsay said this week on Watch What Happens Live that she has not been drinking. She has been,
Wow.
she has not been drinking for the past 2 months. And on the show, she was drinking like Fose, like literally Luann's Fose.
I love how they have each other's back in the Bravo family.
I mean, you and I have talked about this at length, and something when I interviewed Lindsay last spring, something I said to her was like, I care deeply about Carl's happiness and I care deeply about your happiness, and I really feel like the two of you should be together. And I feel like you felt that as well. Like, this feels correct and aligned.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so deeply invested in their romance in a way that I'm not even usually invested in romances. I mean, in general, let alone reality TV, I feel so deeply invested in this romance and I want it to work so bad. And I don't know, this is the flavor of it for me. And I hope I'm not this might be me just projecting what I want to see and feel, but what I feel off them, I feel like they genuinely care about each other just as friends before they're even partners, right? They care about their friendship so much. And I feel like with these two, obviously they have both made deep mistakes and blunders in the world of romance. They've both been their own worst enemy. They've both watched themselves on TV play these patterns out. What I sense in them is that they have such a fundamental caring for each other as human beings and as friends. It's almost like this sense of we both don't want to fuck this up. And in that place, we are both willing to do this differently this time and to be gentler to both each other and ourselves. I just get this sense of I'm ready to make new choices. And as I say that, what also comes through is I think they genuinely trust each other in a way that they may not have trusted other people in the past because of their history. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's what moves me so much is just this sense of they've both really weathered so many romantic storms and we've seen them trip and fall so much. So this notion that these two people who for so long have been playing games with themselves and the people in their lives, for them to finally come together and to care about each other so much to try to do it differently, it just feels so tender to me. And that's what I get off it. Again, maybe this is me in projection, but that's what I feel. And I'm rooting for them so hard.
If you could give a message to Carl right now, what would it be?
In terms of this relationship?
His life, his sobriety, the changes he's made, the relationship.
Well, I notice I feel so overwhelmed when you say that. I'm like, oh my God, this feels like such a responsibility to come through with the right message for Carl. Well, I will tell you, I did recently have an intuitive hit for him. I'll say that first. It's pretty specific, and then maybe I'll feel into if there's something more general for his life. But he posted on Instagram recently kind of a post that was a tribute to his brother. I think it was either his brother, the anniversary of his brother's passing, or it was his brother's birthday, something like that. And I just really felt so strongly, and this has come through. I have other friends who actually very similar situations, who had siblings who were addicts who then died. And I think sometimes there are certain family members who carry the energetic or emotional or spiritual burden for a larger system for the family. And I just get the sense that's part of what was going on with Carl's brother. And I really have this feeling and belief / knowing that Carl's brother's passing, that is something that energetically, spiritually paved the way for Carl's healing now. And not just Carl's healing. My sense is that it's healing the family on a deeper level. My understanding is Carl's closer to his father now. My understanding is that Carl's father and mother are doing better now. And I just have this feeling like all of this stuff, it's not like, do you know his brother's name?
Oh, I don't remember his brother's name, no.
But it's not like, if only like my brother could be alive for all these changes. Like my feeling is, no, these changes are happening because he passed, and in doing so he released something for the larger family. And I feel it so deeply, like his death was not in vain. And what's also coming to me as I say this is that I don't think he could handle carrying all this. So in some ways, it's like leaving was also a gift to himself, and it was a gift to the family. So I just want, part of me is like, I was thinking about even DMing Carl. It's just like, I just wanted to say to him, like, your brother's death was not in vain. And it is what has paved the way, I think, for all this healing on a deeper level. But as far as like a more general, I mean, I just dropped in for a second. The words I heard were stay the course. The words I heard were one step at a time, truly. I feel for him in this moment, like perhaps this potential, I don't want to call it danger, but this potential of as his life starts to, settle down more and more and he finds more and more of his flow, that it could almost trip the wire in him of wanting to get somewhere faster, quicker, to have more answers, to be more settled. And I feel like that's the place where he could maybe get not into like trouble, but get into trouble again. So I just sort of feel something for him around be willing to just be in this slow process, be willing to be slow with yourself, keep taking baby steps. It truly is just one foot in front of the other. And even in terms of relationship with Lindsay, I mean, I think there's something empathic going on right now. Like I'm feeling what I'm interpreting as a flavor of Carl's heart. And it just feels like there's something so tender there, like something so vulnerable and tender that really needs to be tended to in a slow, gentle way. And I think in the past, he's been skipping over it. And when he skips over it, that's when trouble happens. Like there's just something really slow, tender, and gentle that wants to happen there. So I think both in life and in terms of relationship, Carl, just let yourself be a beginner. Don't be in a rush to get anywhere else. Stay the course, go slow, and just know, that there is this very gentle part of yourself. I mean, there was more coming through, but I also just, sometimes I feel like I just got to rein it in. Sometimes
I felt like you were reaching a big climax and then you just like stopped.
Well, I just also, I felt the part of him too, that sometimes Carl needs to throw a temper tantrum. Sometimes Carl gets angry. And so I just felt
and Lindsay's going to need to throw a temper tantrum as well, because that is part of her Leo energy.
Well, and I also, as I was talking about Carl, I realized I could be saying the same thing about Lindsay in terms of her heart. Like there's just something so vulnerable in her. And so I think, and I see this a lot with clients and even myself, there are a lot of people out there who there's a yin and a yang where they have fire and passion and heat and strong energy. And then intertwined with that is a really deep sensitivity and tenderness. And a lot of times for these people, it really is, it is a balancing act or a dance of kind of navigating back and forth between these moments where we let ourselves have our more fiery energy and our strength. But then, okay, on the other side of that, we need to slow down and we need to honor the part that needs to integrate and recuperate and just chill out and take it easy. So a lot of times it's not one or the other, but it's both things at once. And I just feel part of Carl's slow process is allowing these times where there's going to be flare-ups. He's got that fighter in him. And I think if he tries to resist that too much, that could be difficult too. It's like, no, let yourself own the anger in a responsible way. Like give it permission, find out where it's coming from, what it has to say, work with it. Don't bypass it. And that's part of your slow, steady journey.
In watching the premiere episode, how did you feel watching the Kyle Amanda breakdown or like sort of implosion of what is going on with them? The contract that they have with her parents, that if he fucks up or like drinks or goes missing, which he did, then he owes her family money. Also, like, are you surprised that they even made it down the aisle? All of that.
What I'm about to say, I say as a true Kyle lover. Anyone who follows my content knows I love Kyle.
No, he is your one. He's your one true love. We know this.
I have to say, watching the premiere, I actually felt really annoyed with both of them. I just felt fed up with both of them. I just felt, let me just preface this. I really don't like diagnosing people as anything. I feel like it's up to us to claim our language and to claim who we are. So, but I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. For me, like if I were in charge of Kyle's life, let's just say, to me, he's got an alcohol problem, and I'd be prone to at least explore the possibility that he is an alcoholic. He's a high functioning alcoholic. He definitely has addict energy, and both of them just seem so invested in the drama of their relationship, and neither one of them seems really willing to deal with it in a constructive way. So on the one hand, you have Kyle, who, the reason why I say it seems like he's an alcohol problem is he is deeply attached to getting drunk for the sake of getting drunk, like deeply attached to it. And we all see it. It's not even like he's creating once in a lifetime memories. It is literally, let me get blackout drunk, end up in my living room with a pile of potato chips on my lap, and I'm going to fight for this. And if you try to take this away from me as a 40-year-old man, I am going to get pissed off. Like, he is so committed to this in a way that you don't see any of the other cast members fighting for it.
Okay, I'm going to step in here and say, I believe he is doing this because there's a camera on him and he knows how to produce good TV. I don't think he's doing this in February on a Thursday night. Like, I think he saves this when the cameras are rolling. He is the producer behind this thing.
But I think even if that's true, it's still problematic. I mean, because Jess, he's making a choice to go on TV and engage in behavior that's like threatening to destroy his marriage. I mean, that's not sound thinking. And the other thing I'm going to say about this, because he is so high functioning, it's like when he's not drinking, then he's got this what seems like high stress, all consuming job that he clearly has trouble walking away from. And then when I say clearly he's invested in the drama of this relationship, we heard him saying already, Amanda and I, we live together, we work together, essentially we're doing the show together. And so it's like, when I look at all that, I'm like, well, you invited her in to this job. And if you're saying that this is a problem, maybe it's time for Amanda not to be a part of Loverboy. Like, Kyle clearly, there is something in Kyle that is so invested in the chaos. There's something that's so invested in the nonstop pace. He wants the drama. And I just feel like for Kyle, the real challenge for him would be, what if there were space in your life? What if Amanda did have her own world? You weren't working with her. What if you had normal, 9 to 7 hours with Loverboy?
But that was what they had. That was their relationship, and he made her quit her job. She was a graphic designer. That was their relationship, and it was the same shit.
This is what I'm saying. This is why I'm fed up with him. It's like, you're complaining about how hard it is, but you created this and then you don't do anything to stop it. Now, Amanda, on the other hand, like, by the same token, she's doing the same thing, where at this point she knows who he is. So it's like, when I watch her calling him 26 times, it's like, he's not picking up the fucking phone, Amanda. Why are you calling him again? Why are you calling him again? And then throwing his stuff on the bathroom floor, which, I'm sorry, it is immature. You are acting like a high school girl. And it's the same thing with her, where I just get this feeling with Amanda. What would it mean for you to not be in this dramatic relationship? She has been chasing him from the beginning. The pattern has never changed. So in the place where we create our own realities, Amanda has some investment in this pattern of chasing the guy. I mean, as I say this, what comes through to me is, I think there's a very young little girl in Amanda who's waiting for the man to come through for her. I think she wants the man to change for her, to essentially be rescued by the man. And I say that too because Amanda, even though to me, she's clearly a powerful woman who's got a lot going on. And so it's interesting that she always seems to be emotionally positioning herself as this little girl who's crying and whining and breaking stuff and hanging out with Paige and complaining about Kyle. And I'm like, Amanda, you feel so much stronger and more powerful to me than this. But I think there's something in her that I think that if she were willing to be in a relationship where she didn't have to chase the guy, and again, there was space in the relationship and she were truly met, she would have to surrender some young part of herself that I think is holding out for the kind of absent or problematic man to change his ways for her. And to basically say, you're worth it, Amanda. Like, I'm going to come through for you. That's what she's not giving up.
I predict they're going to have 2 kids. Kyle is going to continue this behavior, obviously, because he's been doing it his entire life. And maybe they'll have another kid. He's still not going to stop. And it's going to be when she's going to want 2 kids with the same father. And then she's going to leave him.
And then when she leaves him, she's going to make him the bad guy and act like she's a victim. And I tried so hard, even though the writing was on the wall from the beginning. My fear for Kyle, because as you know, I love Kyle. I feel his heart. I feel his good intentions. My experience of him is that there's such a deep unresolved rage underneath his compulsive drinking. And my concern for him is, yeah, the more he goes down this road where he's more deeply entrenched in marriage and kids and the business, and he's disowning all this anger, I just think the rage is just going to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And it just makes me sad for him because I don't think it's going to take him anywhere good. And I just want what's best for him, and I don't want to see him go down a road that people do go down when they don't work on themselves, which is they just get worse and worse. They don't get better.
So what we did with Carl, if you could give him one message, what would it be?
This is the message I would give to Kyle. I would invite him to seriously consider the possibility that there is an issue with his drinking. And to at least explore that. And so however he wants to explore it, I'm not going to say go to AA or whatever, but at the very least, did you hear in that pilot or the premiere episode his contempt for the therapy?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I was just like, oh, God, there it is. So whether it's exploring it with a therapist, whether it's exploring it with 12-step recovery, whatever it is, I just think Kyle needs to at least entertain the possibility that there's an issue here and to see where that takes him. Because the longer that he ignores that, and the one thing I will say to him, clear as day, you have unresolved anger, which is fine. We all have anger. I know in this, I always feel the need to clarify. I come from the point of view that there's nothing wrong with anger. It's just energy. I know a lot of people, there's a stigma around it. So this isn't a judgment. But Kyle, you are a strong, passionate guy. There is unresolved anger in you that feels very, very young. You're not just the happy-go-lucky guy who loves summer. This isn't just because you're stressed about work. There's anger in you that you are not fully conscious of, that you are not clear about, and it's really getting in the way of your relationship. So, yes, I would issue an invitation to consider the possibility you have an issue with alcohol and to perhaps an intention to get to know more deeply the source of your anger.
I definitely think Lindsay and Carl stand a better chance at making it all the way than Kyle and Amanda.
Well, what I always wonder about, and I don't know that we'll ever get an answer to this, but I'm so curious for Carl, who is in 12-step recovery and who is on a sober journey. I wonder now, what is it like for him to be looking at Kyle? Especially when Kyle was the one in past seasons who was like, hey, dude, I think you got a drinking problem.
They talked about that on a recent episode. Somebody, I think it was Sierra, because she had this like light flirtation with Carl, and I think maybe it was Sierra. Somebody said like, what's it like to watch all of this? And he said it was when, what's that dumbass's face from Southern Charm? Craig. When Craig screamed at Lindsay for basically exposing the Kristen Cavallari thing, he was like really coming at her, and they were like apparently like screaming all through the night. So I believe it was Sierra said like, did you hear that? And he's like, yeah, I kind of like fell asleep to it. And she was like, what do you like? Does that bother you now? And he's like, I just attribute to just drunken behavior. Like that's what drunken behavior is.
But I mean specific, I wonder what he makes of Kyle and Kyle's relationship to drinking. Because I feel like Carl, we can see how bad it gets, but my sense is he'd probably never say anything. I think Carl feels so, in a way, indebted to Kyle for the love and support that Kyle showed him. And I just have this hunch that Carl would be very hands off and not say anything. But I do wonder, what is he seeing and perceiving through his sober lens of Kyle's behavior?